and we welcome our viewers there, na hiyo itakuwa mzuri. Gakena muno muno muno. I want to make sure that our legal experts are being heard. Bwana Charles, Attorney Charles, I hope you're good.
Thank you. I'm very well. Hope you are.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I wanted to make sure that ni uraiguika wega. Thank you. I can see Attorney Mueni Muli-Raburu on the other side. Attorney Mueni Muli-Raburu, good evening.
Good evening, Captain. How are you?
I'm very fine, thank you. Now, that is good. Now I can go live on the other side. Thank you so much. Alright, jitekeria hũthĩre kamera ĩyo hũthĩre tũgũkorwo tũhana ũguo ũmũthĩ, and that is good. That is our Studio B. Na hiyo ni maridadi. So we are going to have a debate and a discussion, and this one is geared to address the issues of asylum. And I hope that together with attorneys Charles Wanjohi and Mueni Muli-Raburu will be able to address the issues that we have not addressed. So I want to make sure that I welcome Attorney Mueni to say hello to us, and as we begin. Attorney Mueni, this is your time. I know you are not on the screen, but we can see you imaginary in our imaginations.
Well, thank you very much. I can see you, and good evening. I hope you're doing well.
Oh, yes.
Thank you so much for having us on again. Very happy to be here with you, and glad to answer these questions and continue and finalize our session on asylum.
Thank you so much. Good. Attorney Charles.
Hello. Good evening. Yeah. Tonight I'm happy. It's been like, I think this has been a long sessions we've been holding, and I'm excited that this is another opportunity where we share about the best way to gain permanent residence and gain peace in this country with the right people and with the right guidance. Thank you and welcome for the session.
And thank you so much. One, I want to appreciate all our viewers. Susie Ben, Penny Pesha, asante sana. Mudogo ito Mary Gashigi, asante. Mudogo ito Connie Champa from Indiana, asante sana. Thank you, and thank you for your support. Susie Ben is in Seattle, Washington. Penny Pesha in California. Mary Gashigi, thank you so much. Mudogo ito Masiwainaina down in Arizona. I hope you people are doing good. Wangeshi Rachel down in Seattle, Washington. Thank you so much. On the other side, I see Chris Mwangi watching from Nyeri, Kenya. Asante sana, and good morning, Nyeri. Jane Wamushene, thank you so much. Mom, I love you so much. And Wendele Vivio, she is in Massachusetts. Nakemudu to Pastor Mugo Wankaraja, good morning. Nake Kuria, Kenya. Lydia Joy Kaimuri, how are you? I got your song. Miriam Waidera, thank you so much. I see your message. Virginia Nganga, Mutahi Kevuchi Regi, thank you so much. Helen Mugai, asante. And we continue, we work this, and we make sure that we learn and share this with our friends so that they can learn. And if you never watched our programs, our last time's program, then you better do it, because this is the time. So from our last week's program, can we have a recap, just a recap of some of the main issues? Maybe Charles, you can take us through that.
Last week we discussed about what is asylum, and we said asylum is what refugees are granted. You are granted asylum because you've been harmed in your country, or you fear being harmed in your country if you are forced to go back. And that harm we discussed and said is not any harm which is protected. We said a lot of harms can happen in your country, criminal in nature and all that, but the one which counts is what is humanitarian in nature. It has to be that harm which is meted on you because you hold a certain characteristic, or you hold a certain view which the oppressor or the persecutor does not like, and they are persecuting or harming you so that they can overcome that. or they are punishing you because you believe in whatever view you have. So that's what we discussed, and we went through some of them. We mentioned 5 of them. May not necessarily go through them again today. And here we are today. Now that you have an idea what asylum is, we still said if you do not understand the asylum is very difficult. And especially now it's even getting worse and worse. We mentioned that it's very important you get professional help. This is your life. You've been harmed. You start the risk of going back to the same country where you are harmed. So don't do that. Seek professional help. Tonight we'll be now discussing about the interview. Here we are. You have you have applied for asylum. You have done the right thing. You have prepared well, and the day we all wait for, has arrived. So that's what we'll be discussing tonight.
Thank you so much. I want us to go right into this. Once we get, or once an applicant or somebody who has filed for asylum receives the interview notice, what should he or she do once they receive that notice?
Well, I see Attorney Muli is still on mute. So eventually, once you file for asylum, the thing you've been waiting for is to get that interview notice, to go and talk to an asylum officer and explain your case. That's all what we wait for. Currently, over the past few years, there's been a lot of mixed policy guidelines as to when you can get your interview. And as of now, they've been interviewing the most recent applicants. However, the number has always been outweighing the available slots. So there's still a waiting period. So you'll find that there are people who've been waiting now for for more than 5 years to go for an interview. And there are others who get their interview notice within a matter of weeks. So it depends on where you are. The minute you receive that interview notice, the first thing you should do is to quickly organize to meet your attorney. This is very important. Once you get a notice, call your attorney. Let him or her know that you have an interview coming up on a certain date. Then the period between notice and the interview is not usually so long. So you need to quickly get in touch with the attorney so that he can also make proper arrangements, and he also schedule to meet with you the soonest possible. And once you meet with him, you will review your application to see all the details you wrote in your application, and you'll discuss any issue which might have arisen between the time you filed and now. You'll also discuss probable lines of questioning. If you are lucky to have an attorney who is experienced, an attorney who has taken other applicants for asylum interview, an attorney who has been representing people who are being deported and they are applying for asylum, they will most likely be knowing what are probable questions you might get during the interview. And that's what now you'll be discussing as you prepare. And then as you review your form I-589, and you also review your asylum supporting statement, you will make any correction. For example, if some details have changed, of course, you will need to make correction of that. If there are details which are not correct at the time you are filing, of course, you'll make correction to that. Necessary updates. Most of the time you file for asylum, you're not working. That's a necessary update you need to put. Sometimes, unfortunately, people divorce between filing and now. It's also good that you indicate. Other times, people are lucky and they give birth. You also indicate. So this will be the time for you to give your attorney all the necessary updates so that you can make proper preparation.
In addition to that, we want to review for additional supporting evidence that we have. Mr. Andrea has spoken about the fact that maybe your application was submitted 5 years ago, 4 years ago. Even if it's a matter of which when it was submitted, you most likely you did not submit a complete and full asylum application. So this is the time to review what additional supporting evidence as far as your claim is concerned. We talked about the law and how asylum law is to be presented last time. So when we're talking about issues of nexus, talking about the qualifications, what classification of asylum you have, this is the additional evidence that you will be preparing to submit once you get that notice. And then you want to submit the corrections of 589. Has your name changed? Do you speak an additional language? We talked about employment. Mr. Andrea is talking about employment. Do you have any children? And again, very critical, if the time that you applied for your application has been a significant, submit these changes ahead of time, because during the interview, as we will discuss, if you make changes now, you will look like you're being inconsistent. So this is the time to look at all that and be ahead of them and make those changes as they are. Did you submit a statement of those? In that statement, is there anything that has changed between the time that you submitted it and now that you're going for the interview? And how can you explain that? This is your opportunity to do that. And all this stuff has to be given in 10 days before the interview. So whenever you get your notice, as what Mr. Wanjohi said, it's very important to immediately meet with your attorney, because all this evidence has to be collected and submitted 10 days before you go in for your interview, so that their officers can be prepared and have reviewed them, so they can be ready to be there for your interview. So again, this is things that you have to act on very quickly once you get your notice to appear for the interview.
Okay, as you do that, remember the asylum interview is very overwhelming, and any minute somebody receives a notice, a lot of people don't even sleep because you're imagining what you're about to undergo. This is your lifetime moment. Either you get the protection you dearly deserve, or you are denied that protection. So this is a very momentous moment, and we understand that you have been harmed in your country, and you are going to go and recall and explain all those details the way you've never done. So a lot of people will need to get mentally ready. Get yourself mentally ready to go and narrate what you did. And unfortunately, from the minute you filed up to now, you've been talking to an attorney or a professional who agrees and who is on your side. You are going to meet now an officer who will want to verify whether you are telling the truth. Sometimes you are telling the truth, and you can tell from the facial expression of the officer they think you are lying. So you really need to get yourself mentally ready. Now, if your harm was to an extent that you had even sought counseling, mental counseling, psychological counseling, and all that, this is the best time you also take that phone, call your counselor or whatever the person who was providing the counseling services to you. Talk with them, explain to them that you're about to face this interview. Let them know your inner feelings. How do you feel? Are you comfortable to go and talk about it? So this professional will tell you what you need to do, so that that issue will not really bog you down once you go for interview. So you need to do that. You get hold of your professional counselor. Then after that, of course, I know, Captain, this one I'll also say a lot of people, they are Christians and they have a lot of faith in their pastors and the prayer groups and all that. So it's a high time now you also reach out to them and tell them to pray for you. You may or you may not tell them what exactly you are praying about, but let them know something is happening, because you need each and every effort to ensure you are mentally sound. And then after all that is said and done, you have now to make proper travel arrangements. There are only 8 USCIS asylum offices. These offices are not all over the states. A lot of states don't have an asylum office. So you will find a time you have to go for interview in a far state. Like in North Carolina, you'll be forced to go for interview in Virginia, all the way to DC. People from Pittsburgh and such places, they all have to come to Virginia, DC area. So it's a long distance. So you need to make proper travel arrangements for yourself and for interpreter if you are using one, any family member who must accompany you, and any witness who you need. We have had some unfortunate situations where we get to the interview and we wait there for a certain family member who was coming from a different place, or an interpreter, and unfortunately some interviews end up being cancelled, and you don't want that happen to you. Then on the day of the interview, now you have to plan to arrive at the interview building early enough. For example, maybe you can try to make by that building by at least 1 hour before the interview time. This one will help you, one, to ensure you are not late, and also you don't panic or have a lot of unnecessary anxiety. You can avoid that, because if you're running against time and you are going for an interview, so the first thing you'll do to yourself is you will subject yourself to unnecessary panic and anxiety to an extent that you might go even to that interview room and you forget your name. And all what happened to you is all off your brain. So please get there, plan to be there at least an hour before. And then finally to enter into the building. It depends on whichever locations. Most locations they tell you arrive there 15 minutes before time. That's when they allow you to go in. Some places maybe you can enter 30 minutes before. So just ensure you're out there so that you get there comfortably.
Wow, that is important. We are discussing matters asylum, and I know that we started off sometimes back. If you were not with us, you can go to our YouTube channel, and you will for sure watch and listen to some of the things that we have been able to address. Remember that we have attorneys Charles Wanjohi and Mueni Muli-Raburu. These are people you can call, you can communicate with, and it will be important for you to learn some of the things that will help you. In case you have a question that we have not been able to address in the past, you can send that question direct to me. I will receive it in confidence, and I will be able to ask. Our numbers, or the number that you can send, is scrolling down there on your screen. Now, what should one expect? I get into the interview room. I'm there in time. I have my attorney with me. I have my all the representatives with me. What should one expect in that very interview room, knowing that it holds the key?
So the first thing, and just to emphasize on what Attorney Wanjohi has said, is just do not panic. This is an opportunity that you've been waiting for a very long time, and this interview can be the determination of whether or not you remain in the United States. So if you're prepared, if you're ready, then you would not be panicked. And don't take it lightly that you want to reach out and get some help and get yourself mentally ready to go through this process. The interview room you can be there for a very long time. So be comfortable. We tell people to wear layers. If it's too hot, you can take a jacket off. If it's too cold, you can put a jacket on. You can be for an interview for 4 hours. You can be for an interview for 6 hours. Okay? So during that time, it is very important for you to be comfortable. If you take medication, let your attorney know, and let the officer know, hey, I need to take my medicine at 12 o'clock. I have to take my medicine at 11 o'clock. There is no problem with that. If you need to take a bathroom break, it's absolutely okay to ask for a bathroom break. If you need to stretch, if you need to take some time off and just take a walk around the building, that's absolutely okay. So feel comfortable, because you being there and being able to be fully present to present your case is vital. So we want you to be as comfortable as possible. Situations have changed post-COVID, as everything has in this world, basically. So when you get into the interview room, you will not be allowed to be in there before 15 to 30 minutes before. And it's also best for you not to be there too early. Don't be there an hour early, 2 hours early. This is nothing that you're trying to cause yourself extra anxiety or uncomfort about. Get there when it's time to get there. Even if you show up an hour before, stay outside, take a walk, take a deep breath, and do not go in until 15 to 30 minutes before your actual interview time is in. Once you get in, you will go through security. Do not bring in a computer. Do not bring in any cigarettes, any lighters, any large objects. Assume you're going through the security at the airport. That'll be the situation. You'll take your shoes off in most places. You will take your belt off for you to go through security. Once you go through security, you will be allowed to check in with an officer. And now, because the interview room, they have to space everybody. The positive thing about that is post-COVID, your wait time is not extended because they want to limit the number of people that are in the interview room. So once you get in, you will check in, you will give your name, you will give your interview notice. Your attorney will also check in, and your translator interpreter will be in to check in as well if that is necessary. Post-COVID, you are being given the option as well to have your translator appear telephonically. You're given the option to allow your attorney to appear telephonically. But for these cases, we would advise you to, unless you absolutely have to, continue to take the option to have your attorney present in the room with you. There's a lot of comfort in having somebody in there with you that is on your side. However, they will encourage you to appear telephonically. And if you're comfortable with that, absolutely no issue with that. Post-COVID, they're doing that to ensure there's social distancing in the room and that everybody's protected. You will have your mask on post-COVID. So remember that if it's a 4-hour interview, your mask will be on for the 4 hours. So be ready with that. Have prepared for you talking for those 4 hours. If you get dry mouth, they're going to be difficult about you having water in the room. So if that's going to be a need for you in your practice, when you've gone over your questions with your attorney and you realize you need water every 5 minutes, or so, then at that point, you want to tell the interviewer, hey, I do have some issue with dry mouth. I want to have my water in the room, and they will allow you to do that. So that's what for you to expect when you get in at the interview.
All right, we lost a little bit on the final part, but it's okay. Maybe you can finalize that particular point, Attorney Charles.
Yeah, the point she was talking about is if you have any medical condition, which might, like she had mentioned about dry mouth or anything else which may inhibit your flow during the interview, it's always important to let the officer know. They are very considerate and they will allow you to work the best way possible. Remember, these officers are very trained and they are also very sympathetic. They are very nice people. So they will allow you, they will work with you so that you do your interview the right way.
Thank you so much. We continue with this discussion. It is a part of our mission as the Trumpet of Hope to inform and educate the public and even to address matters that affect us. Now, let's know. Somebody is asking, how is the interview itself conducted? How is it conducted? You know, it's something that we would want to know what the whole process from point A to point B.
As Attorney Mueni said, an interview can last anywhere from 1 hour to 6 hours. And we have had some few unfortunate situations whereby people go for 4 hours, the interview is over, and then after a few days, they are called again for more interview. So it can happen you have even more than one interview. But as we say now, you're already inside the interview room, you're very comfortable, you've taken off the jacket if need be, and you have adjusted your seat so that you are very comfortable. Now, the officer, normally you are interviewed by one officer, just one. The room is not so big, and you are there, you are seated. They are very nice people. Sometimes some of them are even very young. Somebody you may get an old one. They are very nice people. They are just the normal, regular people you find here. And even their dressing is very comforting. You will not find them with all these suits and ties and all that. Most of them, they just wear in a very casual way. So They try to make you as comfortable as they can. And the first thing the officer will do, they will introduce themselves. I'm so and so. I'm the one who will be interviewing you. Please feel free to talk with me. If I tell you something you don't hear, if you don't understand, let me know. And then they tell you how they interview and how they take notes. They let you understand. They tell you if you are talking to me and I'm not looking at you, I'm typing, just go on. If I don't hear something, I'll tell you to repeat. So they make it very comfortable for you because they understand that what you underwent in your country, no person should ever do that. So they understand where you're coming from. So the expectation is you need a lot of sympathy, and they do that. Now, after they introduce themselves, they will be swearing in. And this is where now we start seeing a lot of things. You're told to raise your hand and do you swear, however, you know how the swearing goes. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth? This one we see a lot of funny things. You get person, instead of even responding, they are already panicked. They start repeating what the officer is saying. They don't even get to know what the officer is saying. So we find a lot of those things happening. Panic. You should avoid it. It's a very simple swearing in. Just say yes. Don't even struggle to say, I swear I will not tell the truth. I will tell the truth. Just say yes and move to the next. Then the interviewer will go through the interview and decision process. They will tell you how they are going to conduct the interview right from the beginning. They tell you, we'll ask you question. If you have question, also ask me. If don't be too fast, slow down. Sometimes I may not get you. I may tell you to repeat. Sometimes I may ask you very personal questions. I know they are hard. Please just answer the best way possible. They will take you through all that. If you have an interpreter, they will make you understand how it works. Tell you if you are using an interpreter who are responding, use short statements to give your interpreter time. They tell you if you understand some parts of English and you have an interpreter, stop answering question in English, stick to the language which you use, and then give interpreter time. Don't make long statement because if you make a long statement, the interpreter may lose some aspect of your case. So they will make it very clear. They're very lovely people, good people. And then they will tell you about the decision making process. They'll tell you after interviewing, we are not going to give you a decision. Depending on where you live, they can tell you to come back after 10 days for your decision, or they can tell you just wait for the decision in your mail. So they'll take you through that process. They make you understand what possible outcomes it can be. There can be an outright approval, which is all what we hope for. But they tell you if you are already in status, if they are not comfortable, if they don't agree that you are eligible for asylum, they can send you something called notice of intent to deny, where you are given an opportunity to respond to their concern within 16 days. But if you're already out of status, they will issue something called referral notice. They will refer you to go before immigration judge. They issue you with something called notice to appear. Notice to appear is what now started removal proceeding, the commonly known deportation. They will grant you that. And they will tell you receiving of notice to appear and referral notice does not necessarily mean that your asylum has been denied. You are given another opportunity to go before an immigration judge and give out your case, your details, and try to see whether the judge will grant you asylum. And after that, they will go over some very basics of your case because at the beginning, they want to make you comfortable because they know how deep they are going to get into your case. So they want to make it very comfortable and they want you to be relaxed as much as you can. So they go over some few basics. Like something as simple as how did you meet your attorney? And this year now we find a lot of stuff. People are there, they cannot even remember how they met their attorney. And sometimes I feel so bad. Or you go for an interview, ask how you met your attorney. For some reasons, you want to not tell the truth. I do not understand. If you met your attorney through Captain TV, just say, I was listening to Captain TV and I saw these guys and I called them. You do not have you should not have any difficulties explaining how you met your attorney. Whichever way you met your attorney, that is exactly how you should. Should not be like going loud and loud and just tell it. Tell us it is. There are more important things to deal with than a simple thing of how you met your attorney. I had a YouTube clip. I saw him. I saw his website. We are friends on Facebook. My friend told me he came to our church. We were in a certain conference with him. Just say it. You don't have to go around.
And then you're going to review the actual Form 589. And that's why we talked about at the beginning, why it is important for you to note down what changes that you have. And they will go over it. 1, 2, 3, 4. What is your name? What is your address? Have you been known by any other names? Where's your passport? When did you enter? When did you exit? Okay. So expect that 100%. So when you're preparing for your case, go over your application, go over your 589 page by page, number by number, section by section. That is going to be the first step. The interview is a 3-step process. The first step is a review of your application of 89. The second step of it is a review of why it is you're applying for asylum. And the third step will be general clearance questions that everybody will be asked. So your first part, the first part of your application is a review of your 589. Do not let that to take 1 hour or 2 hours of your time, because they have to go through each and every single question. So if you're prepared for it, prepared with your changes, ready to answer the questions, then you're going to be okay with that. If, again, like Attorney Wanjohi said, you are now divorced, then don't get stumbled by that. Your application said that you have your husband. Where's your husband now? Okay, be able to produce a divorce certificate to show that the marriage is no longer there. If you're separated, be able to say that. The biggest thing about asylum is being consistent. Right? The purpose of this asylum officer is to make a determination. Hey, let me see what this person has put on the application. Is that true or not? And how you answer these questions, how you present yourself is what assists them in making this determination as to whether or not you're being truthful. Again, this is not your regular ICE officer, your regular USCIS officers on like adjustment applications or employment-based applications. They're not there to be confrontational. They're here to hear what your story is. They're here to give you a chance to talk. So if you're going to stumble about your marital status, that will make them question, really? If you're not okay telling me how you met your attorney, if you just went to Google and I Googled Kikuyu speaking attorney and I found Mr. Wanjohi, be okay to say that. If you have trouble saying that, so why should I believe you have been harmed in your country? They're able to relate those two issues. Are we going through your application? Give me your last address where you lived. I don't know. Maybe you applied for your application when you're in Seattle. However, your application port of entry was in Atlanta and you've lived in Atlanta for the past 5 years. How did Seattle come up, right? So be prepared for that. Your 589 will be looked at page by page, number by number. They're going to ask you, did somebody assist you? Did anybody help you in completing the form? We talked about the issue of plagiarism in our community, whereby many people, we have agents who are not immigration practitioners who are preparing these applications, submitting fraudulent documents. Okay, so you're going to have an issue here. The officer is asking you, did somebody help you in completing the form? If you say no, and they have seen this story 7 times over, if they've seen this fact person several times over, there's going to be an issue. It's very unlikely that your situation is that similar to somebody else. If you say no, and remember you were put on, under oath when this interview process began, then have you lied to an immigration officer? Okay, so be prepared to submit that as to whether or not somebody assisted you in completing the form. If English is not your first language, if you cannot speak, cannot write English, then how did you submit this application if you're only fluent in Kiswahili or only fluent in Kikuyu? Who assisted you in reading the facts on this form and completing it in full, okay? And then the details in your statement, the details in the narratives of the application, are those details correct? Did you really get harmed on this day? Or you really arrested on this particular day? And you realize in asylum, they take a lot of notes and they will tell you, when I'm looking down and writing notes, I'm listening to you. I just want to make sure that I understand everything that you're saying. If you're talking too fast, I will ask you to slow down. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm only trying to understand and make sure I take down all the notes that you're saying. So they're going to be there to assist you in this process, to make sure that it's as seamless as possible. They want to go with you. Are there any changes that you want to make in your statement? I said that I was arrested in November. No, 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 I made a mistake. I remember when I was arrested, it was right before Easter Sunday. I apologize, I made that mistake whenever I was applying. Right now, when I was going through my application again with my attorney, when I was preparing, I remembered I'd come from Easter Sunday. That's when the arrest happened. So if there are any changes to be made, let's make them now. And let's make sure that you don't look like you're submitting conflicting information. And you may need to explain those changes again. If your application say that I was arrested in November, and then now in your statement is saying that it was after Easter Sunday, you will have to be able to explain those. And again, this is the opportunity to do that. In asylum cases, it's not a gotcha situation. They're not trying to catch you in something. They are honestly and truly trying to make a determination. Have you been harmed? And are you eligible for asylum? So take this opportunity and be able to present it. You must be 100% accurate in what you're telling them. They're here to verify that. Lack of accuracy or clarity is a red flag. They're looking for credibility. And a lot of people will be put in removal proceedings and the officer will say lack of credibility. So let's be prepared for that and answer those questions properly to make sure that you're credible. Because if you're credible, then yes, you will be eligible for asylum.
Wow. Thank you so much, Charles.
And then, as you said, asylum, once you deal with that bit, the next bit will be the statement. There are two critical things in an asylum. There's the Form 589, and now there's the detailed explanation of what happened. It's not like compulsory for you to have a statement, but for you to clearly and fully detail your case, that part you are allowed to write in your Form 589 is not sufficient for you to clearly convince somebody that you had asylum, you eligible for asylum. So statement is very critical. And the same thing arises. You ask very simple question. Did anyone help you? Did you get any assistance while writing this asylum statement? And you find all these answers. Somebody says, no, I did not get any assistance. And the officer can just go a little bit deep in your statement and ask you, what do you understand by this and all that? So if you receive an assistance, like if you're writing, if you're working with us, we shall assist you because we are legally allowed to assist you in writing your statement. We're not the one who are telling you what to write, but we guide you what you need to write. So sometimes you've never been to any high school, or you've just been to high school, you've never been to any law class, you've never known about asylum in the past, and here you've written a very well arranged statement which is only identifying the necessary issue, and you say you are not assisted by anyone. No officer will believe you. So if you are assisted, please say, yes, I was assisted to write this statement by my attorney. But the details in the statement are all mine and they are all accurate. All I got was guidance from my attorney. So feel free to do that. Then remember, there are a lot of things which arises. You do not know English, or you're not fluent in your English. Some of these people we represent, they've not even been to high school. They cannot even explain anything in English. And remember, in that form, you have indicated your education history. You hear you only went to elementary school, primary school for 4 or 5 years. Well, you might have known a lot of English, but you only went to school for 5 years. While I was in standard 5, the statement I can write is not equivalent to what an asylum statement would be. So if you tell the officer you are the one who wrote the statement for yourself, you will have that little doubt. So if you're assisted by someone, explain what extent of that assistance you got. The other thing is, you have said you are not fluent in English and you are here with an interpreter, but the statement is written in very fine English. How did this happen? The officer will doubt whether you wrote that statement. And asylum is a It's a matter of credibility. So you will explain everything else, but the officer will be right from onset. They will have some doubts whether you are telling the truth, because that statement is not for somebody who has gone up to start 3 or start 4. And I'm not saying there is anything wrong with going to start 3 up to start 4. They used to happen while education opportunities were not so much in our country, especially the old people. They encounter that a lot. So if you wrote a statement and you wrote it in Kikuyu, just say, I wrote this statement in Kikuyu, I wrote it in Luo, I wrote it in Kimasai, but somebody translated it for me. And then somebody who translated it will certify, they will write a certain certificate of translation where they will say, they will swear that they accurately translated your statement from my language to English. That should be there. And as you said, you are now supposed to send both versions. The Luo version of your statement and the translated version together with the translation certificate. You take those. And then finally, you are there. As we say, there might be some changes. It's very important you explain the changes before the interview proper start. Because asylum, I repeat again, is about credibility. It's about consistency. Credibility is determined by how consistent you are. So if you're not consistent, something you have written in your statement is not adding up with your 589 or what you are about to explain, it's a problem. So you have to make those changes before you start the proper interview, because the minute you try to make changes as the officer is asking those particular aspects of your case, then the issue of credibility comes in, and then the officer will simply say you are inconsistent. What your testimony and your written statement are inconsistent. But if you make changes before, right at the beginning, then you won't be charged with the inconsistency.
Let me touch real quick about the body of the interview, right? Why is it that we are applying for asylum? The reason that you're here for the interview today is for you to be asked questions, okay? So you're going to be prepared and ready for that. What is the basis of your claim for asylum? You're going to be given the opportunity to present that case to the officer and tell them, why is it that you think that you're eligible for asylum? What is it happened to you? And again, this persecution is usually a very traumatic time in somebody's life. It may be something that you're not comfortable talking about, something that is very painful for you to talk about. That's what we talked about at the very beginning, that it's very important for you to be mentally prepared to go over the situation. What is it that happened to you? What is it that you are so deathly afraid of that you do not want to go back to your country? You have to be able to explain this to the officer, regardless of how difficult it is. So the officer can make a determination. The interview they can take it a couple of different ways. They can have standard questions of what is the worst thing that ever happened to you? What is the last thing that happened to you? What was the first thing? What was the first time that you faced persecution? What is that? And they can leave it open-ended for you to be able to tell your story. Again, they will write down each and every single word that comes out of your mouth. If you have a translator, please be patient. Let them finish what they're saying before you speak. And the officer may stop you and say, hey, slow down. I didn't understand that. Let me write that down again. And it is very important for you to be truthful, for you to be accurate, for you to be consistent, because I can go back and say, hey, let me just read to you. When I asked you this question, you said this. If I look at your statement, it says something different. Explain to me why that is different, okay? And then remember the fact that you submitted all your supporting documentation 10 days before the interview. So at this time, the officer has reviewed those documents that you've presented. They have reviewed what your statement is. So they want to hear you say it. It's an open book exam. They're asking you what you have told them. Repeat it to me. So how you go there and get your date mixed up, how you go there and don't remember exactly what happened, is to show a lack of preparation. That's why it is very, very important for you to be prepared, you're going to know what questions you're going to be asked. Again, I say it, it's an open book exam. You submitted some documentation to us. You submitted a statement to us. I'm here to ask you exactly what it is that you told me. Just to clarify that, I want to look at you in the eye and make a determination based on what you tell me, whether or not that is true. If the officer has some concerns, they will tell you, right? So let's assume that you have, for example, submitted an application for asylum based on the fact that you have been subjected to FGM, right? So the officer can say, hey, listen, you are now 46 years old, right? At what age are these girls usually circumcised? How does it affect you at 46? I've looked at the history of Kenya. I've looked at the history of your tribe. I've been an asylum officer for 15 years. I've never seen this come up again, okay? So those are the issues that they will raise up based on and they'll tell you, I've been a Peace Corps. I had one recently, an asylum officer who was a Peace Corps in Ukambani, and he asked me and said, hey, do you know, this and this place was a Peace Corps there for 4 years. So you'll find those people who have been there. And again, they have been trained to deal with people who have gone through trauma. So they know how people hold themselves up. So if you're there happy-go-lucky, talking about how you were persecuted, then they'll be like, hey, listen, if I was held up in jail for 2 weeks without being charged, not fed, in a dark room by myself, I wouldn't be all calm and collected, presenting, saying exactly what happened to me. But again, maybe you have gone through mental health treatment. You have prepared this, how you answer that question with your attorney, and they have presented this to you of how you should hold yourself up. So any concerns that the officer has about what evidence you have presented, how you're holding themselves, they will raise this up. Let's talk about your addresses. You are required, in this country, anytime that you move, that you notify the service by mail and in writing that you have moved. If you applied for asylum and your asylum application was mailed from Seattle, and there is no evidence whatsoever that you have ever stepped foot in Seattle, because for the entire 5 years, the application shows your address is Atlanta, we have a problem. And especially in those cases whereby we're having these agents submit cases for people. Again, if your attorney is based in Boston and you're in Florida, understandable, my file, because they will keep your envelope of anything that comes into the asylum office. Why does your envelope say Florida? Well, my attorney is in Florida, that's understandable. And I'm in California. But if you are self-represented, your application was mailed from Seattle, yet you're in Atlanta, be ready to be able to explain that. If you failed at any point in time to change your address, be able to explain that, what exactly happened. If you have supporting documentation that has come from overseas, especially, these documents have to be authenticated. Okay, so you can't just say, I got a letter from my grandma and here it is. Can your grandma write? How did she send it to you? How did you get it? You have a medical report. How did you get this medical report, right? When did you get it? So whenever you came into the United States, you said you were coming for graduation, but you had the state of mind to go and ask for your medical examination from 4 years ago. So are you telling me that your purpose for coming to the US was to apply for asylum, or are you really coming for this graduation that you said when you went to the embassy to apply for your visa? Okay, so this evidence that you submit has to be authenticated. So be prepared to authenticate every single piece of documentation that you have received. Talk about a divorce. If you got divorced by your spouse, how did you get a copy of it? How was your spouse aware of where is it that you are? So all these things will be reviewed. The benefit, the one benefit of having an attorney there with you, I said it's good because it's good to feel that I have somebody on my side. I have somebody who has my back. I'm here for the past 6 hours. I want to look on my left and see, Mr. Wanjohi is here with me. Okay, I can do this some more. These are the questions that we talked about. But again, we can have those questions where you are so anxious. Those situations you're so anxious, you are so confused, and you're not able to answer the questions, okay? But because I've prepared with you, because I know what your application is, then I can go back and ask you the question again. I can be like, Captain, the officer asked you 1, 2, 3, but you said 3, 4, 5. Do you want to clarify that? Then I'll be like, oh, yeah. What I meant to say was, okay, so before the interview is over, as an attorney, I will have that opportunity to ask you questions to clean up any mistakes that have been there. So we can make sure the time that you leave this this period of your statement that you have presented fully what it is that you came there to do, to present the reason why you need asylum. And then an attorney will also give a brief legal analysis of your case, I will tell the officer, listen, this is why captain is eligible for asylum. By the law, he's eligible because of 1, 2, 3, 4. The evidence that we have presented, 1, 2, 3, 4, fully and completely shows that he's eligible for asylum. Okay, so want to leave there that we have fully presented and made it 100% clear, without a shadow of a doubt, that we are eligible for asylum. So the big part of the chunk of your interview will be this part. So let's be ready for it. Let's be ready for those questions.
Wow, that is a deep information. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Charles, Attorney Charles and Attorney Mueni. We are learning a lot, and I want to thank all our viewers wherever they are. Thank you so much. I see all these comments, and we'll be able to look at them as we continue. Marilyn Matujen, Musheneze Dizina, thank you so much. I see all those likes. I see all those forwards, and don't listen to this alone. It is important to share information with somebody else, because at the end of the day, this information is valuable. Kairetu Kamwaga, good information. Zedizina, thank you so much. Anna Mrefu, hi Wakili. Samuel Wagura, very informative. Jeriwa, Helen Muigai, Arolia Ma, 6 hours. Really? Monica Bukinya from Colorado, thank you so much. Grace Wagura, thank you. Shikowawa Jiro, God bless you, Captain. Asante sana. Florence Minor Pastor says, wow, a very important information. Asante sana. Wamboi Kanash, thank you so much. Tunaendelea kusoma. We are getting to another another question that has often come, and this is important so that we can address it nicely. What are some of the questions asked during the interview?
Okay. Before you get to that, I just want to add something very small. It's about what Attorney Mueni was addressing, and it's one very important thing which happens during the interview.
Mm-hmm.
As we said, you forget a lot of things, and there might be a lot of inconsistency between your statement, your form, and your narrative. So during the interview, you'll be given a chance to address those inconsistencies.
Okay.
Please do it. Sometimes it happens that the officer do not get your response clearly. Just restate it, make it very clear. If you don't have an explanation, please don't guess. Just leave it. Okay, some of the questions asked during the interview. Asylum interview is not easy, but if you're well prepared, it's very easy. Well prepared, and you understand your case. Sometimes we get calls from clients and they tell us they have attended asylum interview, they have applied for asylum. But there's some very basic but crucial and critical details of their case we don't know. So you have to know what the officer is looking for. We mentioned about the grounds for asylum and what is harm. That is all what the officer wants to identify from your case. Because as they summarize your case, as they summarize and present your case to a supervisor for approval, it has to be very clear that so and so came here and this is what happened and it happened because of this. So first thing they always ask is, how did you learn about asylum? You're from Kenya. You never knew about asylum. And actually, a lot of us, while we were in Kenya, we only knew about refugee. We never knew anything about refugee. All we knew is that people from Somalia, they ran into Kenya and they stay somewhere in Dadaab or Kakuma. That's all we knew about asylum. So here you are bringing a very technical asylum, foreign domestic violence. So the first thing you ask by an officer, how did you learn about asylum? When did you learn about asylum? How and from whom? Please, if you call an attorney and then you explain to an attorney all your fears, and then the attorney told you you can apply for asylum, just say it. If you learn from a friend, just say it. How did you learn? I explained to my friend Captain that I'm afraid of going back to Kenya, and Captain told me there's something called asylum. So I went to Google, I read a little bit about it. I also went to USCIS website, I read about it. I went to YouTube. I really had a lot of clips about asylum, and from it I contacted an attorney, and that's how I found my asylum. So just explain how you land, and all the officer is looking for is the candor. Are you trustworthy? Are you somebody who is reliable? Are you telling the truth? That's what the officer wants first to establish. How, when, from whom, and one other critical thing which arises is, remember, you go to the embassy and you said, I am married, and you got your visa, and you came into the US and you are not married, you are single. So you fill your 589 and you say you are single. So outrightly, you got your visa through fraud. So if you lied at the embassy, it means you can also lie to me here. So this question of how you learned about asylum that's why you also explain that I had heard about asylum while I was in Kenya. So I was coming to the United States to seek asylum, because remember, if you give some information which is not accurate while you're applying for a visa, but the reason why you gave that inaccurate information was to enable you flee from persecution. You wanted to flee Kenya. So I knew if I say I am married, it's a high chance I'll get visa. That's why I said I am married, I get my visa, I come to the United States, and I apply for asylum. I was fleeing Kenya. That's why I say this. So it's very important you explain at what point you learned about asylum.
They're also going to specifically ask you, what harm did you receive? What specific harm did you receive? And they're asking this to establish, have you been persecuted? We give you a definition of exactly what persecution is at our last meeting. So it's very important that you're able to explain to them how you were harmed. I was arrested. How long were you detained? I received some beatings. Where exactly were you when this happened? Who was there with you when this happened? I was assaulted. What kind of assault was it? How often did it happen? What was the most severe part? When was the first time that it happened? So your harm, again, we're looking to establish persecution. What harm did you receive is going to be asked. Be ready to fully explain that. Explain how you are harmed. And again, persecution is what they're looking at in this question.
Once now you're able to prove that you have been harmed, now the most important thing is, why were you harmed? The officer wants to establish that you are eligible for asylum. And we said you are eligible for asylum because you are harmed. But what reason made you be harmed? You want to establish what enumerated ground was it. Were you harmed because of your religious belief? Were you harmed because of your political opinion? Were you harmed because of your nationality? Were you harmed because of your race? Were you harmed because you belonged to a certain social group? That's why the officer will be asking you, why were you harmed? And this one becomes very important because I give an example. When couples or women mostly are abused by their husband, there's so many reasons why your husband can abuse you. Can abuse you because he's alcoholic, can abuse you because he's having a lot of extramarital affairs. He can abuse you because you have a certain belief, that you believe in gender equality, you believe in women's rights. That can also be a factor why you abuse. So you have filed for your asylum, and the reason why you abuse is because of your gender equality and your belief in human rights, women's rights. So once you go for interview, the officer will ask you, why was your husband beating you? If you explain that your husband was beating you because he would come home while drunk, or when I asked him about the affairs he was having with other women and all that, you're still telling the truth. No problem, you have told the truth. But you have left out the most important aspect of your case. That he was abusing me because of gender equality. I wanted him to treat me as a woman. My husband does not believe in gender equality. My husband wanted to dominate me. My husband wanted me to conform to these cultural beliefs. I was fighting for women's rights. I used to be the chairman, the chairleader of this chama. I used to talk to girls in my church. My husband was not happy about it. I was opposed to FGM and I was campaigning against it. My husband was not against it. That's what they want to hear. So if you understand your case very well and you have discussed so well with your attorneys, we will advise you that once you go for that interview, you do not have to tell the officer irrelevancies. These officers, they are also human. You do not want to waste the officer's time hearing about how your husband was drunkard, and it will not help you. Just leave that out. Go to what is your case. Why was I harmed? If it does not come out, then you have a problem.
There's going to be a detailed description of the various components of your 589. We spoke about before that you'll go over it step by step. Part B of your application asks you questions about, do you fear harm or mistreatment if you return to your home country? That question will be asked to you, and they will compare what you put on your 589 and what you verbally respond. They're going to ask you, have you, your family member or close friend or colleagues ever experienced harm or mistreatment or threats in the past by anyone? That's a very open-ended question. They will ask you that question again. All the part B and part C of your 589 will be asked. That specific response will be compared to the very generic question that he asked you. When was the first time you were harmed? So how you answer that question, how you answered it in your 589, and how that looks like in your statement will be compared. If those three are different, then there's an inconsistency. Again, this is expected to happen. You are going to mess up. You're going to have an oops situation, as we call it. Be able to explain it. Be able to explain why you named the wrong person. Maybe are you talking about a middle name, how you call this person who harmed you by a middle name, as opposed to a first name that you put up there? Or is it a street name that you call the person? Why did you mix up the discrepancies between the 589, part B and part C? Any difference about the question that the officer asked you, when were you harmed, the first time, the last time, the worst time, and your statement, that is going to be looked at in detail on your application. And then also your supporting documentation. And all these four things have been looked at for one thing, to establish whether or not you're credible. Okay, looking for credibility. Credibility is huge in the application for asylum. So this is going to be asked of you.
Awesome. We continue looking at these things, and Attorney Wanjohi Charles will continue to discuss the other very important aspect on the issues of the questions that are asked during the interview. And then after that, we're going to address a very important issue on some of the issues to be careful about while applying for asylum and during the interview. That is very important. Before Attorney Charles finishes the issues of the questions, let's thank you so much, Kerema George. And he says that this conversation is great and informative. Thank you for this forum. And Wangeshi Rachel says good tips. And Kairetu says good information. Thank you so much, Marine Amato, for you likes. And I have another question that will come up before we conclude this. And I wish I would put this one to Attorney Charles as he comes, so that I don't want to forget this. Hi, Captain, thank you so much for your channel. It's really encouraging, inspiring, and giving hope. Be blessed. I filed for asylum beginning of this year, but I have never gotten any notification for biometrics. I wanted to know how long do they take to respond, and how long does it take? Anyway, that's a by the way, and it is a very important question. So, Attorney Charles, I just wanted to give you a break.
Okay, thank you so much. Quickly to the question. Filing for asylum and he did not receive biometrics notice. Once you file for asylum, the first thing you receive is the acknowledgement receipt, and then you later get biometrics. I'm guessing this person is saying that he has already received the acknowledgement. Is only biometrics. Biometrics is fingerprint capturing. Right now there was COVID, so there was no biometrics capturing appointments which are going on. Once they reopened, it's also very limited. So it's very slow. The process is very slow, and it will take a while before they get. But all I can tell him is that he should not get worried that he has not got biometrics notice. In any case, the purpose of that is to check whether you are a criminal. If you know you are not a criminal, don't get worried. Maybe they already know that you are a good man, so they may not need to get you. So no worries about it. Back to the interview. The other aspect which you'll be dealing with is your supporting documentary evidence. Remember, you've gone for an interview, you have the form you have filed, and you have all the supporting evidence. You will have your own statement, which you have written. You'll be asked questions about it because that will be the main determinant of how credible you are. But now you go to the other aspect, what you brought. You might have come with letters from your family members. So if you're talking about an abuse, and then you bring a letter from one of your brother or your sister, your parent or a family member, but they appear not to mention anything about what happened to you, then we have a problem. So anytime you are getting that letter from a family member, you have to ensure they understand what they are talking about. For example, you are a lady, you are talking about domestic violence, you're abused by your husband. If your sister is writing a supporting statement, they should be able to identify who was your husband, what abuse is she aware you underwent, and whether she is aware of the reason behind that abuse. If she only talks that she came to visit you in the hospital without getting so much into why it happened, then that statement may not help you a lot. So each and every supporting statement, you have to ensure it addresses all or most aspects of your case, which the person who is writing is reasonably expected to have. Then you'll get the same thing with friends. You want that to be there. And you have medical records. Medical records, you also have to be very careful with them. You may say, I suffered this and this, but the medical records are not very, very clear. So I know what happens in our country or some hospital. I may go there and all I remember is I had this headache and I had a swelling head. But once you go to hospital, the doctor will write each and every aspect of injury you had. If you have a scratch somewhere, if you had a swelling somewhere, anything the doctor will identify, they will list it down. So you go for interview and all you remember is the deep cut you had on your feet. You don't remember the other one. So ensure you are fully conversant with your medical records. The other thing with the medical records, how did you acquire these medical records? How did you get it? If you have a letter, a medical report from the hospital, if you went to hospital maybe January 2nd, and you have a medical record or report written on January 3rd, the officer will ask you, why did you want a medical report on January 3rd, the day after you are released? What was the purpose? So you have to be very clear. I was going back to work and I needed to go with a report to explain why I missed work for this. Or you are making an insurance claim or whatever you are doing. You have to explain why each and every document was acquired and how you got it. And from the day you received it up to now, what is the custody, chain of custody? The officer want to understand. I left it at home in a briefcase, and then my sister went to my house and got it out and mailed it. I sent a letter to the hospital, and the hospital gave this. You have to have a clear explanation for that document to be accepted. Police report, the same thing. What happened? If you have a police report and then the police report says to be investigated, I reported that I was abused by unknown people, whatever, harmed or threatened by unknown people, to be investigated. And here you are. You'll be asked, what did you expect the police to do? If you are walking and somebody threatened you and you don't know that person, what did you expect police to do? So as you take your police report, also be sensible whether it can help or it cannot help, because you may take a police report and it works against you. I'm not saying you don't give it out, but just ask yourself how it will help you, because you'll see that the report is saying we are investigating. So they'll ask you, did you ever go back to police to ask them about the outcome of the investigation? If you never went back to ask about the outcome of investigation, then why are you saying you can't be protected? Maybe police identify the person who threatened you and they told you not to do it, and that person undertook not to abuse you. So why then are you coming to US? So be careful about the police report. And then there's a country report. You can write about asylum and you say whatever you want to say happened to you. However, the USCIS is guided by country report. Each and every country in the world have something called human rights conditions report every year. There is a report which comes out every year, and that report outlines all the human rights practices in that country. So if you are talking about something, for example, that all the tall people like me, we are killed in our country, they want to slice us so that we get shot. Or they will look, they'll go to the report and they see, how tall people are not being slashed in Kenya, so this is not adding up. So you may go with a statement, but it's not really adding up. And this one is particularly important when people are using political opinion. You go there and you say, I was being abused, being harmed, threatened because of this political opinion which I hold. They will clear just flips and few pages and they see whatever you are telling is not adding up. So you really have to know what is the country report, you understand, and you see whether it's consistent with your case. And then you'll be able to address it in case an issue arises.
Good.
When we talk about, police report and country report, bring me to the issue as to what you have to be able to respond to. Can the government protect you? And do you have a safe place to relocate to?
Mm-hmm.
So if you are saying that you were harmed and you went to the police and you reported and the person was arrested,
Mm-hmm.
so why do you want asylum? The government can protect you. You're going to be okay, right? If you say that you did not go to report to the police, yet if we look at the country report, it shows the fact that you have a very stable government and your police are doing the right thing, then you can be able to speak up and say, I understand that's what it's showing, but let me give you an example of that's what is not what in reality on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So that police report and the country report will be very vital. Can the government protect you? Last week, we talked about the two types of asylum based on credible fear of future persecution and asylum based on past persecution. So the burden can shift as to whether or not you need to prove whether or not the government can protect you. Let's talk about a safe relocation. Can you move to Mombasa and be safe? Can you move to Masailand and be safe? If that's an option for you, why don't you do that? Why must you come all the way to the United States to seek refuge? And you can find a place in your country of origin that you can move away from your attackers, you can move away from your persecutors and be safe. Again, so based on your application for asylum, are you applying based on past persecution or credible fear of persecution? That burden could shift. So be able to prepare that. There's absolutely nowhere in every single corner of Kenya that I can go to and be safe. And that's why I'm asking the United States government to protect me.
Yes, finally.
And then after you do all that, your 6 hours are almost done. You have really cried. I see a lot of crying. All the tissues are gone. All the water you had is over. And the interview is coming to an end.
Mm.
You are always given an opportunity to make any clarification. The officer now might ask you, is there anything you want to tell me? And you will be able to say, yes, there is this thing I told you like this. I just remembered, or I want just to emphasize this is the situation. So you are given an opportunity to clarify. The officer can ask you, Is there anything else which we have not discussed which you would want me to know? Yes, I want to just say that I was a very popular TV presenter. In case there is anything which you think may help you, you can also bring it up. You are given that opportunity. And then the attorney is also given an opportunity to either ask you a question or make a closing argument. Remember, I can go there with a lot of quotes. I can go there with a 10-page closing argument. I can talk for 1 hour about your case. The officer will compare what I'm saying and what you have said. So if you are not credible, if you did not really expound on your case, however much I talk, it will add nothing. The only way it can help is you have explained your case, your facts are very clear, you are consistent, but I can just now bring an argument and I clarify what you said and the legal issues in it. But I cannot clarify, I cannot not raise a legal argument if you had not given the basic facts. Remember, I cannot testify about you. And that, while we are arguing on your behalf, we are not testifying. So it's you to testify, and me, I argue using what you have. What you have given the officer, what we have filed, that's what I will argue with. Especially when we get to these cases of particular social group. Sometimes it's not very clear. So it's our job to go there and now take the officer through each and every component of your particular social group. And we've been doing this, and I can say with a lot of success. We, especially something like Mungiki, you know, it keeps changing all the time. You would need an attorney to clearly show how it's a particular social group. When you also get to issues of domestic violence, you want also that to clearly come out. That's where the lawyer can help. If it's a political opinion, sometimes you have this imputed political opinion, the lawyer now can clearly clarify to the officer, articulate your claim, why it's an imputed political opinion.
Wow, this is quite important. I want to bring to to appreciate everybody who is together with us. Sister Kibe, thank you so much. I see you. There's a friend of mine called Pablo Nzegu. Pablo, a friend of mine who has been so quiet. I don't know why, but he mentioned and he added there, if you don't know something or you don't have it, don't bring it up. Otherwise, your application will be delayed or flagged. And that one is a friend of mine, an attorney from California, I think. And thank you so much even for tuning in, Bwana Pablo, na uendelee kunitupa hivyo. Bado tutapatana sana. Yes. Let me say thank you. Rosalind Joki says hi, tuned in. Say hi to attorneys Wanjohi's. Keep up with a good job. Robert and Dumia, thank you so much. The program worth listening. Jerogewa Jega, asante sana. Now we are coming to the final issue for tonight, and this one is based on what are some of the issues to be careful about while applying for asylum. And during the interview, I know so many things have come up. I know people have made some mistakes, and we need to know whether we can be able to fix this. And for us to fix, we need to be informed on what are some of those issues that we need to be careful about. I'm not sure whether Attorney Mueni got that.
Sure, I can jump on and talk about that. I'll talk about the statement. We cannot stress enough how important this is. We've spoken about in all our sessions that this office says, again, there's only 8 major, there's only 8 asylum offices in the United States. You can have interviews brought up with the local USCIS offices, but as far as the jurisdiction of the asylum offices, there's only 8 of them. So be assured that they have seen it all and they've heard it all. We as attorneys, we have seen, especially in the issues that we have up of these agents and plagiarism cases that we have seen. You can just find a case and like, this sounds very, very familiar. So if there are similar statements that have come up with similar incidents, similar names, the same fact patterns, that is going to raise a red flag. Mm-hmm. So we have to review your statement, see exactly what it is that you're saying, and have we heard this before? Because again, like I said, we have been to interviews and the officer will say, hey, listen, this case is attached to this one ring that we're investigating. We are aware of this. We're going to give the opportunity to come out ahead of it so that you don't go through this whole interview. And now, in addition to having this, a case whereby you have plagiarized or copied a statement, you also have submitted false testimony before an immigration officer. Mm-hmm. So your statement is very, very critical. And your narrative for part of your application 589 is also very important. The flow of your statement and how does it compare with your education level? Okay, so you did not graduate high school, but you're here talking about the nexus in your application for asylum, right? And then you're asked, how did you find out about asylum? And you say, you know, I just know about it. My friend told me about it. However, it is very clear by how you're presenting yourself, again, by the evidence presented that you haven't graduated high school, but you have some very detailed information, a lot of legalese in your statement, that is going to raise some red flags. Or maybe you're 19 years old, you just graduated from high school, you came here to go for your sister's wedding, and then you're here applying for an application for asylum on your own without the assistance of an attorney, with some very complicated narrative explaining as to why you're eligible for asylum. So they will look into that. And again, the majority of this asylum officers that we meet, they're not here to be combative. They're here to hear you out. Again, they're trained to be very sensitive because they're dealing with people that are hurt, that have been through very difficult times in their lives. So they're not here to get you on something. They're here to hear you out, and they will weigh them. They will weigh what you're presenting to them and how you're carrying yourself out, and they can make that judgment. Does this really add up? Okay. Again, you may be overemphasizing on the wrong legal terms. What is the purpose of that? If you're here just talk about the fact that I was assaulted, right? So why are you overemphasizing on some legal matters that are not even critical to your case? Mm-hmm. And then you're again saying that you have not been assisted by anybody. They're going to be able to catch that. And your testimony must match up with your statement. Your testimony must match up with your 589. And you were given the opportunity before the interview to make any of those changes that you wish to make. So that is your time to do that. The statement will be analyzed and critically analyzed, not to get you. I assure you, they're not here to get you. They're here to try to understand, okay? When they approve your asylum application, they need to be able to present to the supervisor, hey, listen, I interviewed Captain. Captain was harmed 1, 2, 3, 4 ways. He is eligible because of 1, 2, 3, 4 ways. He was very credible. What he told me is exactly what was on his statement. Mm-hmm. The dates that he gave me is exactly what was in his 589. I think he's very credible. I really believe him. I really think he went through what he said. Let's grant him asylum. So they're not doing this to make it difficult for you. They're actually doing this to make it easy for you. There's absolutely no reason as to why you should not be granted for asylum. And whatever you wrote into them is the exact same thing that you're telling them. And again, it is very important to specify that an attorney guided you while writing the statement. No, I told my attorney what I wanted them to put in my statement. I told them exactly what happened to me, how it happened to me, when it happened to me, but my attorney assisted me in writing that statement. My daughter assisted me writing that statement. I'm not very good in typing, not good in writing, but I told them exactly what happened to me, and they assisted me in doing that. So there is no benefit of being untrue. So they're not trying to catch you. They know you paid all this money to hire an attorney to assist you. They better assist you in writing. They better assist you in presenting a good case. Mm-hmm. They better assist you in providing something that's complete and concrete. They're not looking to catch you on anything, okay? So be honest. And again, if you're prepared you will expect these questions and you will know how to carry yourself and respond to it. But your statement will critically be looked at, and I assure it is to assist you in an approval of your case, not to try to deny you or catch you into anything.
Awesome.
The other thing will be the 589. To start with, sometimes you can be asked a very simple question. How did you get a Form 589? Where did you get it from? Remember, you have said, did anybody assist you in filing for your asylum? No, nobody helped me. Do you have computer? No. Do you have laptop? No. How and where did you get your 589? If you don't know how to use a computer, you don't have a laptop in your house, and here you have a Form 589, how did you get it? Did you pray and it just fell from heaven, or what happened? So that will be the first thing. They want to know how you got your form. You can be asked. And remember, some of these questions arise because during the course of interview, something came up. Or even before, you already flagged. So Form 589 will really count a lot. They will ask themselves, what is it in it? They start supporting statement, what is it in it? And unfortunately, there are so many mercenaries and imposters. It happens a lot. And it's sad that there has been a lot of investigation. The Trump administration is very keen on eradicating asylum fraud. So one of the things they thought is that a lot of attorneys are involved in fraud. Unfortunately, they have realized it's not attorneys who are involved in that fraud. Most of people who are involved in it are mercenaries. They are agents. USCIS does not have any agent. It's either an attorney or it's a board accredited representative. Anybody else, you just know it's not a recognized person. So we are aware of a lot of investigation going on in Boston, a lot of investigation going on in Seattle. So any Kenyan who filed for asylum in those two cities, just know that they will look at it more keenly because they are aware of a lot of things which are happening in those areas. And this is a reason out of what we've been talking about, same statement, same fact pattern. What is in the statement of the person who is going there, nothing is matching up. A lot of removal proceedings, a lot of asylum are being denied in those areas, and people are being taken before immigration judge for deportation. And as it happens, some old women especially, they go to these agents believing they are attorneys, and they end up finding they are not attorneys. So they are very bitter. A lot of people get very bitter when they see that they've been conned. I was told there is this attorney, but you end up finding it was just an agent. So those victims of fraud, they have been reporting to USCIS, and a lot of investigations have been done. Lots of people have been caught with those fake asylum, and there is a lot of investigation which is going on. So that's something one has to be very careful. If for any reason you have a pending asylum and you later came to discover that the attorney who filed was indeed not an attorney, it's a high time you quickly get in touch with an attorney somewhere who is licensed, and you can clearly just check and confirm that this is a licensed attorney. You check it out, you confirm this is a licensed attorney, consult with them, tell them what happened, and there is a clear way out. You do not want to attend an interview which is already flagged. Go for interview, and the officer already know that this person filed it. Remember, US government has got a lot of resources, and once they point their eyes towards someone, they will not miss to fight whatever they are looking for. So be very careful. It's happening. And a lot of people may land themselves in trouble, but we hope they will take the remedial measures. They should take action early enough to ensure they are in the right side of the law. Remember, a lot of people have been harmed. You do not want victims of harm not to get protection because you just went there as an imposter and you made it worse for each and every Kenyan. So be very careful.
I want to talk about it. I mentioned it already before about the mailing address. Are you applying for your asylum application in Florida? Yet you show that you lived in Atlanta, right? If you're going to lie about your address, why should I believe about the assault that you received? Okay, even though you applied for your actual asylum claim in Florida, however, you applied for your work permit and your work permit was delivered in Oregon. Why is it that Oregon doesn't show us any of your addresses in your application for asylum? If you would lie or hide something as little as an address, why should I believe the fact that you did go report to law enforcement when you were harmed and you received no assistance? Again, everything that happens to you will be looked at the totality of the circumstances and the addresses, even known addresses. These agents will use one central address. Many people are working in homes of other people or in places where they don't want it to be disclosed where they are. So your agent will say, hey, I can use my address for you. And they have one specific UPS address that they use for all their cases. That is going to be problematic. So these addresses are known. Be very careful about your mailing of your asylum claim and even where you submit your evidence from.
Another issue which arises during asylum interviews is failure to understand what's your purpose when you go there. You are there with an USCIS officer. This is the first real government representative who is there to make your life better for the rest of your life. Asylum officer. That's the best person. That is the person who is on your side. Tell this person this is what happened. Connect with the officer. Connect with the officer. Let them be your advocate to their supervisor and to the entire US government. Let this person advocate for you. But remember, nobody will advocate for you if we don't connect. So you have to use your best PR skills, public relations skills, to connect with the officer. Number one, consistency. You have to be loud enough. You have to look into officer's eye. You have to be responsive. Once you ask a question, don't dodge. Don't take the officer around. Be very straightforward. Give the answer you've been asked. Ensure you connect with the officer. Endear yourself to this officer. Sometimes you find that the officer is not, you suspect the officer is not believing what you have said, and you start raising an argument during an interview. Please don't do that. You'll find an officer is telling you that, hey, I know police in Kenya, they are very active. They arrest a lot of people. The country report shows, I have a report here, country report or another report which shows that in the year 2014, 1,000 husbands were arrested because of battering their wife. And then you start raising an argument. Please know how to easily convince officer despite those facts. Explain to them, like in such a situation, yeah, those were very lucky women at it happened, but at the same time, there are millions, there are thousands and thousands who did not get help. Like myself, this is what happened. You emphasize your case and don't tell the officer, don't try to show the officer they don't know what they are talking about. Recognize, acknowledge what the officer position is, but now try to bring out to the officer why yours is different. And even I tell, I wish my husband was arrested when I reported to the police. I would be the happiest person because I would still be in Kenya. I'm here in the United States. I've not seen my kids for the last 5 years. I wish it could have happened. He was arrested. He goes to jail. So don't raise an argument. Sometimes I know you might find an officer who, well, they are all humans, and a day that he's not in the best of the moods. Please just know, even if he is not in the best of the mood, try to charm him. This is a girl you are trying to tune. Please, you can't let that one just disappear like that. Ensure you tune them Don't raise an argument. Stop telling the officer, oh, as I said, no, I did not say that. No, 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 no. Sometimes you may say something and then the officer does not get it well, and they later say, but you told me this and this and this and this. Please don't tell the officer, no, I did not say that. You did not hear me well. Or the officer may ask you the same question and say, no, as I said, I told you that. Don't do that. Clearly and with a lot of calmness, tell the officer, oh, this is what happened. Maybe if I was not clear when I earlier answered, this is the exact position. Now bring back officer to you whatever you want them to hear. Don't raise an argument. Remember, sometimes some of arguments in those offices, they don't carry the day. This officer has got a lot of discretion. They have a lot of discretion to determine whether you're credible or not. You want them to determine you are credible by not raising unnecessary argument or just being somebody who is nagging or disrespectful during the interview.
Awesome.
And last but not least, and most important, and I've said this already before, the only reason we are going to this asylum interview is to be asked questions. I understand you don't think that 6 hours, I'm a victim of domestic violence, you should not take me 6 hours to explain that. However, you are here to explain why, how, where you are harmed, okay? So if you lack material knowledge of what it is that happened to you, it is going to be a problem. The only reason is for you to explain. Be intimately familiar with that part of your application. And for you to be denied your asylum application, or for you to receive a referral of your asylum application and the officer to say that you lacked material details on your case, that you are inconsistent, that you are evasive, is going to be problematic. Again, they will start this interview. That's why they're so relaxed. They don't have a red tie and a suit and a jacket. No, they're going to be very relaxed. Again, you could find somebody who has done this for the past 10 years, was a Peace Corps, has a lot of information about it. Or you could find somebody 25 years old, just graduated from law school, who's going to be your interviewer. But they're here to hear you out. It's an open book exam for you to repeat verbally what you wrote to them and what you submitted to them in writing. Okay, so you're there to be asked questions. Do not get denied, do not get referred because you lacked knowledge of the material content of your application. We are here to be asked questions. If it takes us 30 minutes or 6 hours, what we want at the end of the day is an approval. Okay, so let's just answer those questions and let's be prepared for them. They are not here to get you. Of all the officers that you should be comfortable and you should be okay to appear before are the asylum officers. There is no fighting. There is no, again, you can take 10 breaks if you need to. You know, I've taken breaks to walk around the building just to get some fresh air. You tell them, listen, this has been a lot for me. Again, it's very difficult and traumatizing for me to speak about all this abuse that I went through. May I have a 15-minute break? Absolutely, let's do that. I've taken lunch breaks in the middle of my interview. If that's what you need, they will assist you to do that. Again, be prepared and do tell what it is that happened to you. That is the only reason you're going there. So do not lack knowledge of that.
Mm-hmm. Wow, this is this has been a very good and informative session. I know the information is a lot. I'm not sure whether I'll be able to cut it into different or shorter scripts in the YouTube channel. I'm not very sure, but if I don't, then maybe we'll just we'll look at it as a whole, and maybe you can be able to take that particular part that bothers you so much. Now, I have two questions here. One is asking, hello, I filed in California and I work in Seattle. My mailing address is still in California. Can it be a problem?
There's a difference between your mailing address and the difference between your physical address. Your application will ask you that. Be clear about it. So it's not going to be a problem. You're able to be very clear about where you physically live. And if where you physically live is different from where you receive your mail, that's okay. Be able to explain that. but do not say I have no contact whatsoever with California, yet the record reflects something else. And again, why are you receiving mail in California, yet you can receive mail in Washington? Again, there could be an explanation for that. Be able to clarify that.
Hi, the last one is please find out when the 365 days for asylum seekers to get work authorization kicks in. Thanks a million.
It kicked in August 22nd, August 25th. It's already on.
What would you explain a little bit?
Anyone who filed for asylum, for you to now to get work permit, you'll have first to wait for 365 days before you file for work permit. Before it used to be 150, then is granted by your 180th day. Now it has changed. You have to wait for 1 year, 365 days. That's why we are saying people need to be very careful. You do not want to wait for 365 days for it first to get work permit. So you'll be suffering in this country for 365 days, only to get an opportunity to go before an asylum officer, and you still don't get it because whatever you submitted is not up to the standard required by the law. So it's 365 days. It kicked on August 25th.
Does that affect those who have already who had already applied, or is it afresh?
If you look at the regulations, they are a little bit fuzzy in a way. The introduction and the summary of it shows as if even those will be affected. But once you go in a little bit deeper into the regulation, they say that they will not be affected. So right now we are just waiting and seeing. We are continuing filing. For those who had filed before, we want to see what clarification will come. So as of now, we are taking the part we want. We are taking the bit that they are not affected, but there is some inconsistency in the regulations. We are waiting to see what guidelines and directions we will get.
Last comment over here. Somebody lost, or the mail was destroyed by a relative, or rather a host. What does, or what should she do? A host received the papers or the notification, and then maliciously, or out of just bad manners, decided to destroy these papers, so the papers never reached to the applicant.
So it's very important and good to have an attorney on the record, because any single mail that you get, your attorney will also be able to get a copy of that. But in this situation, if you did not have an attorney, USCIS can issue a duplicate notice of that said notice or receipt that you did not receive. USCIS can issue a duplicate of that. Even if you hire an attorney after the fact, they will be able to get the entirety of your file.
Thank you. Very good. It has been awesome. Thank you so much, Attorney Mueni. I know you are just doing so much at the same time, but we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for sacrificing your family moments to just communicate with us, even as you continue with your other business. And I'm just amazed by your juggling all these things and the multitasking. I'm just amazed, and I thank you so much, and God bless you. I don't know whether you have any closing comment before I let you go, and then Charles. Charles, you can take over before.
Yeah, thank you, Captain. It's been a journey. We've been discussing a lot of stuff. Discuss about getting green card through marriage. Discuss about asylum. But one thing which is coming out very clearly is that these things can be very easy. It can be very simple. You should not carry that burden the way you normally do. They are all important steps in your life, and in a way, they shape your future in this country. They determine your destiny. So don't just take it for granted. Getting that visa in Nairobi, God had good plans for you. Once you get into this country, ensure that you continue the plans which He had for you. And the only way is doing things the right way. If you want to use Google to guide you through your entire case, so be it. Please do it, but ensure you do it right. Get the right aspect of Google. But it would be important you get legal counsel. You will find there are so many immigration lawyers who specialize in it. And immigration practice is not like any other practice. It's actually it's not well paying like other cases. It's so hard to get an immigration case where you'll be paid 20, 30,000. Yet some of these contract job, you just write a contract, 5-page contract, and these big companies, they pay you a lot of money. So anytime you find an immigration lawyer, they have something above just the practice and the making money. Most of us, we are in this field because we have that humane heart. We want to help people. We understand what it means for families to be separated. We understand what it means for you to suffer in your country because of whom you are. And that's why we are in this profession. So we are here to help you. You should not carry this burden alone. And at the end of the day, you get your green card, you get your citizenship, also make life better for the people who are going to follow you. And with us, Captain, I will emphasize people should go to iwillvote.com. We need you to vote. And I will say I need you guys to vote for Joe Biden. The current administration has really affected immigration in a very negative way. So we need to reverse that by voting the right person, who is Joe Biden.
Thank you so much. Njoroge Wajega arikiriria na kuria atiriri, if you filed and didn't receive the notification receipt, but later you got to biometric and got the work permit, are you in trouble? And that's a question. Can you mention something about that before you go?
No, you are not in trouble. Acknowledgement receipt just shows that asylum was filed, and what they have is the date you filed and your AA number. If you have biometrics receipt, that notice, the one which shows you when your appointment is, you can use it because it has your alien number. It has the date when the USCIS received your asylum, so you can use it. So you should not be worried. But I would be worried that you don't know the details of your case. You're not sure why you did not receive this and all that. So in case of such a situation, you can just request for a copy of your entire file and you see what is in it.
Thank you so much.
You can request for it and you can get it.
Thank you so much. Attorney Mueni, I am not sure whether we'll be able to say kwaheri, but thank you so much for your time.
Are you able to hear me okay?
Oh, yes. Now we can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. So I was saying thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been quite a journey. We have been pleased and honored to be able to talk with you and try to assist in educating and providing information about immigration. It is not an easy way to be able to get your footing in this country. We do immigration because we have been there. This is something that we have gone through ourselves and we know how important it is. So we want to be able to assist people also to take the same steps to be able to get to the other side of this obstacle known as immigration. You can never get too much information. You can never get too much knowledge. Attorney Wanjohi said, be careful with your Google attorney, but get yourself informed. This is not the time for you to be just closing your eyes and putting your head in the sand and hoping things go away. The reason we're asking people to vote and vote for Biden is because we have seen the difficulty that we have faced this past 4 years with immigration law under this current administration. So if you're able to vote to assist us, to assist your fellow immigrants, to be able to have a footing in this country, please do so. We are not offering any of this information to make anybody be scared, make anybody be fearful. Far from that. We want you to be knowledgeable so you can be well prepared, and we want you to do something about your status. If you are in this country, you can be in this country legally. I don't care if you came in 2 weeks ago and they say that your asylum is now impossible under this administration. You've been here 20 years and things have always been working out for you. So you want just things to keep going as you are, but you're unable to progress, unable to go to school, unable to get a different job, unable to move states because of your immigration status. Do not let fear put you in the darkness. You have the opportunity to speak to somebody. Please do that. And again, we thank you so much, Captain, for the opportunity to speak to you and to speak to your listeners, to be able to assist them through this journey.
Thank you so much. I appreciate and welcome once again. Whenever there is another issue, we are open, and that is why we founded the Trumpet of Hope Media Ministry. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Good night,
Thank
and
you.
enjoy
Good night.
yourselves. Thank you so much. And with that, we come to an end of that particular segment. I hope that you have enjoyed. I hope you have learned a lot. In case you need to communicate with the attorneys, the numbers are as on the screen, and you can be able to at least ask them a question. The numbers are there on the screen, and you can be able to ask them any question that you may be having. And I thank you so much for the questions. I thank you for the support. This is the Trumpet of Hope. And before I get to our song as requested, I want to first of all bring in this particular announcement that is very important. Hey, some people have already started voting. It is important for you to register as a voter. If you have not registered as a voter, please, it is important to register as one. Make sure that you go to the website and register as a voter. Confirm where you are voting. Confirm whether you are voting by mail. Confirm whether you can go and do the early voting. Already some states have started the early voting. And before the November 3rd, we need to ensure that if you're a citizen, if you're a naturalized citizen, you went through the whole of this process, you went and got the asylum, you went and became a citizen through marriage, or maybe you were born here and your parents are from Kenya or African descent, then you need to make sure that you participate in this particular process. That is very, 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 very important. I want to say that if at all there is anything good that you can give to this country as an immigrant, then it is participating in, or as like a naturalized citizen, is to participate in the electoral process. Make sure that you vote. It is important. It is going to help not only you, but even the generations to come. Even the generations to come. Yesterday, I mentioned about reprogramming the mind of a child into greatness, a book written by Mary Mboro, and it's called The Beatitude of a Great Child. Listen to this.
A Great Child is a book that will change your child's attitude and make them great. It will make parenting easier by helping your children be positive thinkers and nurture their greatness in them. By reading this book, children will maximize and live to their full potential. Children will be confident to walk in their success and greatness. It is by reading this book that your child will acquire the characters and qualities to make them succeed in life. Let your children learn to confess is to possess, because death and life are in the power of the tongue. This is a book to buy for your kids, grandkids, nephew, nieces, or any kid so that you can change their destiny. Owning and reading this book is an investment that will benefit and change this generation and generations to come. Beatitude of a Great Child is available at lulu.com.
That book is a very good one. You can get it and make sure that you buy it as a gift to your son or your daughter. It is available once you go to all the sites on the screen. You can just type Beatitude of a Great Child by Mary Burrow,